Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Echoing Green Fellowship webinar called Opportunities and Challenges for African American Social Entrepreneurs. I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It will be about 60 minutes, and we'll try to be respectful of your time. I know we started a little late, but we'll try to wrap up on time. So we'll start, first of all, with about 15 minutes of the presentation overview of just the fellowship itself. And then have a special announcement from a new partnership that we'll go into more detail on later, as well, and then followed by about 40 minutes of question and answer session with 2006 Echoing Green Fellow Anthony Jewett. So just a few technical pieces. There is an Ask a Question feature on your sidebar. That is where you can type in a question for us to answer. For the most part, we will try to answer as many specific questions to you over the chat feature, and any general questions that are applicable to the whole group, we may, if we have time, address them at the end. Otherwise, we may add them to the FAQ section on our website. Any specific questions to the fellow, to Tony, you can ask through the chat box as well, and we will pass it along to our moderator, who will then ask Tony live on this broadcast. Hi, my name is Erica. I'm the Senior Associate of Fellow Programs, and joining me on Echoing Green staff today are my colleagues Nate and Didier, who are also Senior Associates of the Fellow and the Alumni Programs. And just a note that we will be sharing the link to download these slides, as well as the webinar recording of this webinar in a week or so. So if you have technical difficulties, or if you know people who were interested in attending and couldn't attend for any reason, they can watch the video online. Great, so let's get started. Nate, would you like to talk about the fellowship? Thanks.
Sure. So hi, I'm Nate Madsen. I work here at Echoing Green on the fellowship team. I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of the fellowship itself, and then a little bit about our criteria when we're selecting new fellows. So first, on the fellow experience itself, the fellowship's a 2-year program that comes along with a number of benefits. One is an unrestricted social investment of $80,000 for individuals and $90,000 for applicants who are applying as a partnership, and those partnerships can be no more than 2 people. And so we do have a couple of restrictions for who can apply. Applicants must be founders of the organization that they're applying under, and they must also be the primary decision makers of that organization. Additionally, applicants need to commit to working at that organization full-time, so that's at least 35 hours a week for the duration of the fellowship. So it's worth noting that a lot of applicants at the time of application aren't actually working full-time on the organization, but they start working full-time once the fellowship starts, and that's absolutely okay. Additionally, a lot of applicants are applying with an organization that they haven't actually launched yet, that's still at the idea or the planning stage, and that's fine as well. You don't need to have previously incorporated your organization. So moving along, another one of the benefits that we provide is health insurance reimbursement. We provide up to $4,000 a year, whether you're working domestically or internationally, to be spent on just on health insurance, because we believe it's important for fellows to stay healthy so they can actually carry out their intended work. We also offer a $1,000 a year professional development stipend, and that money can't be used on any program expenses. It can't be used on your salary. It's just for your personal professional development. So we think it's really valuable for fellows to be coming along as leaders of their organization. And so our fellows in the past have used this money for attending conferences, taking courses, getting coaching, all number of things. Another one of the benefits available to fellows is access to conferences. And so Echoing Green puts on a number of conferences each year just for Echoing Green Fellows. So we bring together either all of our active fellows or a subset of those fellows to share what they're working on right now, what they're going through, lessons that they've learned, skills that they've built up, these sorts of things. And so those are a great time for getting tips and guidance on both leadership and organizational development. And we've heard from a lot of fellows that that's been one of the most valuable things that they've gotten out of the fellowship, is that time spent with their peers. We also provide access to technical support and help our fellows out on building pro bono partnerships to help their organization progress. So we're regularly in contact with fellows, finding out what it is that they need to take their organization to the next level. So this might be help on their marketing or social media. It might be help with staffing or HR issues. It might be help building or working with a board, any number of things. So we have some expertise in-house here at Echoing Green amongst our staff, and we provide support through that expertise. But then when we don't have the expertise or the ability to help out our fellows, we do our best to facilitate relationships with other organizations or experts who can help them out. And so we make those connections to try and fill whatever fellow need it is that comes up. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is access to a community of like-minded social entrepreneurs and public service leaders. And so, I think we all know that being a social entrepreneur can be a lonely process at times. You're out there working on some very serious issues, and sometimes it can feel a little isolating. And so we've found that it's really important for fellows to connect with other people who are in the same position, going through some of the same things. And so this happens not only through the conferences that I previously mentioned, but we also try to facilitate relationships between fellows, whether that's exchanging ideas over email, having phone conversations or Skype conversations, traveling to meet each other in person, sometimes collaborating on projects together. And we've heard from our fellows that one of the biggest value adds of the fellowship is really that time spent together with their peers, because there's so much learning that can happen there. So moving along, I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is that we're looking for when we're evaluating applications. And we're sort of looking at two different things. First is we're looking at the individual, and secondly, we're looking at the organization and the idea. So I'll start with the individual. First off, we're looking for passionate individuals. So in your application, we really want you to show us how you care deeply to either the issue that you're working on or the community that you're going to be working in. What's your connection there? And as you read back through your application, try to figure out, would someone understand the why of why I'm doing this, why I've chosen to take on this challenge. We're also looking for fellows who have demonstrated resilience. So social entrepreneurship is tough, and there's inevitably going to be obstacles along the way. And so we want to know that you have the capacity to bounce back and really figure out ways to overcome those obstacles, as well as that you have the ability to foresee obstacles that might be coming down the line before you even reach them. So to show that in your application, tell us about some of the instances in which you've bounced back when you were faced with a challenge, and perhaps even lay out some of the challenges that you could foresee for the organization that you're starting. We're also looking for really strong leaders, and so these are people who are really going to shape the social impact sector and inspire others to take action. So we want to hear about what unique skills or experiences you have that are going to help you succeed as a leader of this organization. And then lastly, we're looking for people who have the ability to attract resources. We've found some of the most successful fellows in the past are those who are just experts at enlisting others in their cause. And so it might be that they're great at attracting money, it might be that they're great at attracting in-kind donations, or even attracting people to their cause, so they make others care about an issue just as much as they care about that issue. So if there are experiences in your past that demonstrate that ability, we definitely want to hear about that. Sort of overall, we want to hear, what is it about this work that excites you and that keeps you motivated to keep going every day? And also we want to know, how are you constantly learning, reinventing, exploring new approaches in your field? So moving to the organizational side of the application, there's a couple things listed here that we're looking for as well. Innovation is a big part of what we're looking for. We aren't looking for organizations that are just sort of doing the same thing that's already being done, maintaining the status quo in a given field or a given region. We want to know, how is this new or different? Has this been tried before? And so that's definitely a big part of what you want to lay out when you're explaining your idea to us. We're also looking for organizations that are going to tackle really important problems, so issues that really matter in the world that are going to have a tangible effect on people's lives. And that kind of feeds into the next point of the potential for big, bold impact. So we want to know, what is the potential direct impact on the lives of people in the community that you're going to be working in? How many people are you hoping to reach? Are you planning to sort of stay small initially and then grow larger? What's the timeline that you think you might be able to scale on? And I think it's important to note that it might be the case that your organization doesn't have big plans to scale, but it might be that you're trying out something so interesting and innovative that others might be able to adopt that model once you've proven that it works, and so that in that way you really could have a very big impact, even if your organization itself doesn't necessarily go to an incredibly large scale. Lastly, we look for good business models. And so here we want to know that you've really thought through your plan. When we say a good business model, it doesn't mean that you need to have gone to business school and got your MBA, that you need to use all the right business jargon or whatnot. We're looking for thoughtfulness about things like, how much money do you think you might need in that first year? How much do you think you might need 5 years down the road? What sort of staff you're going to need to implement this plan, and what sort of timeline you might be rolling things out on. Those sorts of questions are what we're looking for. And you don't need to have all the answers. And naturally, things will change as you are launching your organization and as time goes on. But we want to know that you've been thoughtful about it and really done your due diligence and done a bit of planning in advance. So I'm going to kick it back to Erica to talk a little bit about the timeline for the application.
Great, thank you, Nate. Here on this slide, you'll see the application timeline grid, if you will. So as many of you know, the application officially opens on Monday, so that's less than a week. Hopefully all of you have seen the application essay questions online. If not, they are available actually right now to download and at least get started in looking at what you are about to write. Just a note, the application is not rolling, so if you need some time to work on it, then you have until January 9th. None of the applications will be considered until after the close of the application on January 9th. So in addition to the essay questions, we'll also be asking you some basic demographic info about you, as well as about the reach and scope of your organization. And then we'll also ask you some partnership questions if you are applying as a partnership, as well as have you submit your resume. And that's it for phase one. For the semifinal round, that's when you'll be called back to apply for, apply with separate and additional essay questions about your organization. This also includes some more detailed questions about your budget, as well as a competitive landscape analysis, which is where you'll be showing us basically self-awareness about who else is in your field and who else is doing similar work or working with similar populations. And then we'll also ask for letters of reference, and during the review and due diligence period on our end, we may do a phone interview with you. So that takes us to finalist weekend. A select number of people will be invited to New York on a fully funded 3-day trip where we bring you in for 60-second pitches and panel interviews in front of judges. So this is over 3 days, and afterwards, within a few weeks, we will have the final cohort of the 2012 Echoing Green Fellows. That's basically the application process in a nutshell. I'm sure you have plenty of questions on this. Any of questions that relate to logistics and any of these things, you can direct it to my colleague Rebecca. Her email address is at the end of this presentation. You'll also have probably received emails from her before. Otherwise, her email is rebecca@echoinggreen.org. Anyway, so now I'm going to kick it over to Didier, who will introduce a new opportunity for Echoing Green.
Great, thank you, Erica. Hello, everyone. My name is Didier. As Erica mentioned, I'm the Senior Associate of Alumni Programs, and I'm very excited to introduce our new partners at the Open Society Foundation to talk about an exciting new fellowship that we are looking forward to working on now with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement over at the Open Society Foundation. So we have the privilege of having two folks that are working at the Campaign for Black Male Achievement with us today at Open Society Foundation, Sean Dove and Rashid Kwame Shabazz. Sean joined the Open Societies Institute in May of 2008 as manager of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. He has more than 2 decades of leadership experience in youth development, education, and community building. He served as one of the founding directors of New York City's Beacon School movement in the early 1990s while working with the Harlem Children's Zone. As Creative Communications Director for the National Guild of Community Schools of the Arts, he led a national initiative that partnered community schools of the arts and public housing communities in 20 U.S. cities. Sean also has some experience as the New York Vice President for Mentor National Mentoring Partnership. He founded Proud Papa, which is a publication for African American fathers, and also was a co-founder of Harlem Men Stand Up, an empowerment project that has been holding some summits in Harlem, New York. Sean was also a Revson Fellow at Columbia University, and we're very excited to have him join us. He's also joined with his partner, a program officer of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, Rashid Kwame Shabazz. Rashid comes with a wealth of experience with history of community organizing and strategic communications work with a number of progressive organizations, including the Drug Policy Alliance, the Prison Moratorium Project, Break the Chains, and the New York Funders Collaborative. Rashid is a former recipient of the OSI-funded Social Justice Fellowship. He's had some experience as a senior account executive with Fenton Communications and has also authored a very exciting and interesting white paper called Seize the Moment, Reframing the Story of Black Males in the Media. So we are very excited to have these two partners with us today to talk about this exciting new fellowship called the Open Society Black Male Achievement Fellowship, or the BMA Fellowship, which they will now tell us a little bit now in their own words. So Sean and Rashid, welcome. Thank you for your time, and I'll kick it over to both of you.
Erica and Nate. Well, I'm just unmuted now. Well, thank you, Didier, for the introduction, and Erica and Nate for just hosting this webinar, and Rashid and I just are really excited. Some folks on the call or on the webinar may have heard about the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, which was launched at the Open Society Foundation in the spring of 2008. And really the seed and genesis of the campaign, we responded as an Open Society Foundation to the growing disparities facing black men and boys in America. There was a 2006 cover New York Times story that just proclaimed that the plight of black men deepens and really lifted up data that, many of us working in the African American community and with black boys, it was not new to us, but for some reason it really shed a light here at the foundation with data that just really depicted 50% dropout rates for African American boys, disproportionate health disparities, and the mass incarceration rates. And as a foundation, we said that if we are truly an open society foundation, we have to do something about it. And so I joined the foundation in 2008 to launch the campaign for Black Male Achievement. And as you see in front of you, we have 3 core investment areas: strengthening low-income black families, and a good deal of our investments in that area is around responsible fatherhood initiatives, supporting single mothers raising boys, ensuring that black boys have the opportunity to excel academically, and so a good deal of our investments around education and educational equity. And the third core bucket is around work and ensuring that there are 21st century family supportive work opportunities for black men and boys. One such example of an investment that we've done in that area was help launch a Black Workers Center in Los Angeles, in South Los Angeles, as an innovative strategy to increase employment in that area. And so those are kind of our 3 buckets: family, work, and education. And there's a pillar that really holds that up, and that's really strengthening the field of black male achievement. We were investing in strategic communications and using arts and culture to really reframe how black men and boys are presented in the media, giving black men and boys an opportunity to be masters of their own media. We're also investing in strengthening the field in leadership development and organizational sustainability, as well as also being a catalyst in the field of philanthropy. How do we leverage additional dollars for this critical issue? And so we're just really excited to be able to partner with Echoing Green. In February of 2010, the Board of U.S. Programs here at the Foundation decided to scale us up. We were initially supposed to be a 3-year initiative, and decided to scale us up over 5 years, $89 million. And we wanted to go deeper and decided we wanted to present some things that could really sustain this field and make some innovative, bold impact. One example is the Leadership and Sustainability Institute, which we're launching. And the other thing is we decided we wanted to launch a fellowship, the first of its kind, where individuals would focus specifically on creating solutions to intractable problems that black men and boys are facing in America. And my colleague on the webinar, Rashid Shabazz, had led the research, and we met with Echoing Green, and just the culture and the innovative spirit of their fellowship and their 25-year history was just a really natural fit. And we somewhat broke the mold here at the foundation, because Open Society Foundation, we do fellowships. We have a number of in-house fellowships, but we wanted to do something and felt we needed to do something different, and felt that Echoing Green was the right partner and model to do that. And I'm going to turn it over to Rashid, but there's 3 core things that we really are trying to accomplish with our fellowship, and many of the same principles that we heard with the Echoing Green Fellowship, but we really each over 18-month period want to identify 8 promising social entrepreneurs that are focused on developing innovative opportunities to support black male achievement. We have priority cities, 3 regions across the country, and they're priority cities that we can tell you more about. We, through the fellowship, also want to create and launch a sustainable this is a pilot, but we really want to institutionalize this fellowship program. And just as importantly, we want to just establish the significance of focusing on black male achievement in the field of social entrepreneurship and forming public-private partnerships. The 18-month fellowship is what comes with it is a $70,000 stipend, and also the BMA fellows, the Black Male Achievement Fellows, will become part of the broader campaign for Black Male Achievement community. We have over 100 organizations across the country that consists of social entrepreneurs and leaders, and there are convenings and regular gatherings, and so the BMA Fellow will have the best of both worlds with Open Society and the Campaign for Black Male Achievement and the Echoing Green network. And I wanted to turn it over quickly to Rashid Shabazz, who really cultivated this partnership and is my co-pilot here at the campaign, to just talk a little bit more about the big, bold change that this fellowship means for the foundation and the campaign for Black Male Achievement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rashid, and just want to thank Sean and the Echoing Green team for the introduction and also for the background. There's really not much more I want to add other than the fact that earlier the Echoing Green team highlighted a couple of the qualities and characteristics that we're looking for in their criteria, and we'll be using the same similar criteria that they have in place. But one of, I think, the key areas that we'll be looking for is a passion and a commitment to improving the life outcomes of Black men and boys. And so I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that Sean made, some of the things that will be coming along with the stipend. There will also be the health insurance attached to that, as well as the professional development support that was spoke about earlier. And as Sean mentioned, we also have our fellowships that are part of the broader Open Society Foundation's network, and the fellows that are selected through Echoing Green for this partnership will not only be part of the CBMA family, but in essence be part of the larger Open Society Fellowship network as well. So we see this as emergence of two great programs, one that has had a 25-year history of turning out the greatest, I think, number of individuals to have impact through social entrepreneurial initiatives and innovations, and then also through the values of the Open Society Foundation as a second aspect to that. So we're just very excited for the partnership, and looking forward to assisting in any way in ensuring the success of this pilot, so we can have the next class prepared for the next journey.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you both, Rashid and Sean, for that overview. One thing just to reiterate, just to kind of build off of what Sean and Rashid were saying, to clarify, we're seeing some questions coming up in our chat window here. This is an additional fellowship opportunity that will be happening in parallel to the Echoing Green's traditional fellowship application process. So something that will be happening in conjunction, in parallel. In addition, more information will be available online, but obviously, as we mentioned earlier on in the webinar, you'll be able to learn about how you can ask any additional questions that any of you may have about this fellowship at the end of this webinar. Great. So with that, thank you again so much, Rashid and Sean. Appreciate you giving that overview. Right now, I'm going to switch gears a bit and introduce one of our very own esteemed fellows, 2006 Echoing Green Fellow, Anthony Jewett. We're very excited to have him on the webinar with us to share his insights and perspectives on his experiences as a social entrepreneur, and his feedback on kind of the process of applying that he went through, and any tips and advice that he may have for our kind of applicants on the webinar today. So Anthony is the co-founder and chairman of the National Center for Global Engagement. He founded the Bardoti Global Scholars Program in 2005 to provide global leadership and professional development opportunities for outstanding African American, Latino, and Native American youth through study abroad and service learning opportunities. Anthony also served as a bilingual elementary school teacher in New York City with Teach for America. He graduated with a BA in International Studies from Morehouse College, which earned him both the Freeman Asia and Benjamin Gilman Awards from the Institute of International Education. He was also formerly a fellow in community and family philanthropy at the Zeiss Foundation in Atlanta, and he currently is a doctoral candidate in the new Doctor of Education and Leadership program at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. We're very excited to have Anthony with us today as well to speak with us. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm well, DBA. Thanks. How are you doing?
Excellent. Very fine. Thank you. Great. So I am very excited. I would love to ask kind of some preliminary questions that have come from us through some of the applicants, and hopefully also give you a chance to share any additional thoughts that you may have and any other questions that come on between now and the end of the webinar. So to start, just wanted to ask you what in your mind has Echoing Green done for you, or what did it do for you personally, but also from an organizational perspective when you were starting and running your venture?
Getting the Echoing Green Fellowship for me did a couple of things. I think one was the confidence that it gave me, that the idea that I had become so obsessed with and the solution that I proposed for it were plausible. Because, before then, things were at the idea stage, and you're kind of going, I think that this is going to work, but I'm not really sure, and people are giving their insight and their encouragement. But I think knowing that I had competed against 1,100 people and that, they had chosen 15 really gave me the confidence to say, okay, let's rock and roll now. I think we can do this.
Yeah.
I think it gave a tremendous amount of credibility as well. So before I got the fellowship, I was anxious to connect with people who I thought would be helpful in moving the idea and the organization forward. But it's difficult to connect with folks, especially who are really, really busy, or people who work at foundations and whatnot, who could be funders or potential strategic partners. And then afterwards, there was this immense amount of credibility that happened almost instantly, because Echoing Green sent out a press release that was on the website that said introducing the world's best rising 15 social entrepreneurs. And so that was a huge amount of credibility that sort of cut the due diligence process of strategic partners and funders almost in half. There was a lot of, I think, a sense of community. So the fellows, both alumni and my classmates, are such an amazing community of people that proved necessary both in the beginning and still are now to my work. And the cash. I couldn't forget, how important it is to have the support that Echoing Green provides, to dedicate yourself full time to making this passion become a reality that's impacting society.
Awesome. Fantastic. And Anthony, I don't know if this was intentional on your part, and I'm not sure if you are kind of a closet poet or something, but I think I heard 4 C's from you. I heard confidence, credibility, community, and cash. Awesome. That's fantastic. Great. Excellent. Thank you for that. Secondly, kind of thinking a little bit further along your experience, kind of after you initially got the fellowship, what did you take away from the experience? What were some of the main takeaways, kind of looking back in hindsight?
So I definitely took away an identity, a very firm identity as a social entrepreneur, that still permeates me in everything I do now. I mean, I don't think I saw myself as an entrepreneur coming into the fellowship. I had just finished my commitment to Teach for America for 2 years, and I very much wanted to be a teacher prior to that, and saw myself as a classroom teacher. And I think I got into the work of providing international exchange opportunities for young people who grew up like I did from the place of a teacher did. I wanted to see them grow to their full potential, and so I thought that I would get into the work to work directly with kids and families. And doing the work over the course of time, I realized that as the founder, I was building a platform where other people would really directly be able to work with our students, but that I had to be the everyday entrepreneur looking for resources, attracting relationships that was going to make it all possible. And so I definitely think I walked away from the Echoing Green Fellowship as a current fellow. I mean, you never leave the community, but I walked away from my time as a current fellow with a firm identity as an entrepreneur and a very, very strong belief in self. I failed a lot. You know, we had a lot of successes during the course of my first couple of years, but I failed a lot, and it was through some really deep personal and professional conversations with you know, the folks on the Echoing Green staff and other fellows that I really sort of dusted myself off and found the strength to get back and do it because the work was more important.
Right.
And then I think I walked away with the last thing I would say, well, two things. An immense amount of business skills that came incidentally, so never thought I would know as much about accounting and finance as I do, but that came out of necessity. Definitely a lot of business strategy and you know, HR stuff, program design stuff. But I walked away also with a frustration, and I'm so glad to hear about the BMA fellowship because there was a sort of bittersweet experience that I had. I was very, very glad to have won the Echoing Green Fellowship and all the things that came with it that helped my work grow and impact more kids, but I was also frustrated because I didn't feel like I was seeing enough people being recognized as social entrepreneurs and supported that looked like me impacting issues within our communities. So that drove me a great deal.
Excellent. Excellent. And I'm just curious, Anthony, on the identity piece, kind of seeing yourself and seeing yourself more clearly as a social entrepreneur at the time walking away. In your mind, have you seen kind of that identity as a social entrepreneur shift at all, kind of since the fellowship ended? And if so, and kind of in what ways?
Meaning, for me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I see myself as an entrepreneur, period. Now, it's interesting because even in my doctoral program here, I think that our faculty were very, very careful to try and select people who had a variety of different backgrounds and who saw themselves as professionals that would go out into the education sector to transform it from a lot of different vantage points. And I think that they are very clear that they picked me because I was the entrepreneur in the bunch.
Yeah.
So it shifted from sort of social entrepreneur alone, I think, to entrepreneur at large.
Got it. Cool. Great. Thank you for that. Another question that has come to us is what did you wish you knew before actually starting the fellowship, if anything?
Do we have time for all?
We can pick three or something.
Pick three. Okay.
Or you know, whatever you like.
Okay. I think I wish I knew before I started the fellowship that it would be both about doing the work that I proposed, right, and about building an organization capable of supporting the work at the same time. Because that's a hard balance to strike. So it's how do we move the mission forward, but also you gotta have, you know, an entity that's able to support that. And so that was difficult. I wish I knew how much the success of it all would depend on me in the beginning for a good deal of time to come, and how comfortable I needed to be with that. And telling the story over and over and over with the same or more passion than I had the time before. I think I wish I had known how important it would be to leverage my classmates and the things that they knew, the things that they were working on, and to not, you know, a lot of it again is filled with charting the path. And that's the cool thing about Echoing Green, I think, is that, you guys stand there with sort of a knowing smile, like, we know you don't know this whole thing yet. um, and so I wish that I had known just how available the Echoing Green staff was going to be to help me through some things that I just sort of beat my head up against the wall about a lot before I came to ask. And I wish I knew, probably the last thing, was the attention that would follow and how to best take advantage of it to the benefit of my work a little better than I did.
That's great. I have to say that in addition to what you're saying about the reality of the work and how kind of success kind of was so dependent and is dependent upon you and the entrepreneur, something that resonates with me, and I'm sure also my colleagues Nate and Eric on the call as well, is what your point about leveraging your classmates is. Nate was speaking earlier about community. I think it's definitely worth kind of reiterating that is kind of one of the core kind of value adds that the fellowship provides, in addition to some of the kind of more concrete, tangible resources, including the cash. The community definitely is something that remains and continues to be one of the most powerful ways that folks find support to drive their organizations and ventures forward. So I'm glad that you highlighted that as well, Anthony. Another question that we have here is thinking about obstacles, and particularly obstacles as an African American social entrepreneur and entrepreneur. How have you kind of addressed any obstacles that you may have identified or may have faced as an African American in social entrepreneurship in your work that you've seen? Kind of how have you find ways to kind of go about kind of rising above or navigating those types of challenges?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I don't know whether, I've been sort of going back and forth in my head over the last couple of years about whether the obstacles and challenges that I've faced were a matter of race or a matter of class, or a little bit of both, right? So, those two things are so seemingly inextricably linked, unfortunately, in our society, and we're working through them. But, not only am I African American, but I was so committed to, and am so committed to, the group of young people that we work with, because I was them. I grew up in a housing project in Florida, probably so. But coming into social entrepreneurship, the traditional capital markets, right, for nonprofits is sort of, you found foundations, corporate funders, or high net worth individuals who would support your work. And that's the way that you are able to create gains or opportunities for disadvantaged folks. And that's the traditional paradigm. And we've got some opportunities to make that shift. But I didn't understand the culture of philanthropy and the culture of how money was raised. Now, oddly enough, I was fairly successful at it in the very beginning, and I think it came from an authenticity. I really just wanted to connect with people who wanted to help me help my kids. That's it.
Right.
And a lot of people, really saw that and wanted to invest in it, and they saw the potential of our mission. But I think I didn't understand that culture, and navigating it is very difficult. I've since worked for a foundation and come to understand it a bit more, but that's why I said I don't know whether it was a matter of race or class in terms of the core difficulty that I had.
That's interesting, and I appreciate you raising that, because I know that there have been definitely at least amongst our staff here kind of a mindfulness about some of the challenges that exist with elitism in kind of some of the traditional kind of fellowship opportunities in the world of philanthropy, and so it's some of the kind of continuing ongoing challenges that all of us continue to grapple with and find ways to address. So appreciate you raising that. Another question that we have here is resources and kind of opportunities. What were some of the resources that you found when you were starting up your enterprise? Kind of what kind of was essential for you to kind of help jumpstart and get things going once you were starting the venture?
So the funny thing is, probably three of the most important resources that we needed rather, came as a direct result, like right after the fellowship started, and as a result of people who had either seen me rather on the Echoing Green website, or an Echoing Green board member. So our work was all about supporting schools and school districts in specifically their high-need schools where there are lots of talented but potentially low-income kids of color, to have the same kind of international exchange experiences that their more privileged counterparts do, because those are the things that revolutionized my life. And so what we needed, frankly, was the ability to send these students abroad, and that included plane tickets and program fees for them to go. And so had the idea, wasn't sure, where we were going to get the money to do any of those things. And the first thing that I got a phone call from a gentleman, a company called Laureate International Universities based in Baltimore. And this man, Doug Becker, who was the CEO of that company, and very, very dedicated to Baltimore and just diversity and opportunity. His director of community affairs said, "Hi, basically we saw you on the Echoing Green website, really like what you're doing. We own 30 universities around the world. We'd like to give you some scholarships for your students, as well as a couple $1,000s in funds to get you going," just because they saw me on the Echoing Green website.
Excellent.
And then the second thing was so that was for our college students. And then someone else from Echoing Green called and said, actually, a board member, or he was on an advisory board of some sort, and somehow there was a wish campaign, like grant a fellow a wish sort of deal. And his mother was on the board of a youth exchange organization called AFS International. And because he connected us to his mother, she connected us to the folks at AFS, and we ended up getting 30 scholarships for our first class of high school students to go on AFS programs. So I started the fellowship with an idea, and 3 months later, I had $200,000 in grants and several scholarships for our students.
That's amazing.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Wow, that's fantastic. I kind of building off of that. I guess in addition to those types of opportunities that obviously presented some immediate, urgent, kind of tangible, real, impactful financial support, what are some of the things that you read? What were some of the people that you spoke to? Kind of what were some of the other some other specific examples of resources that you found, or conversations that you had, or learnings that you came across in this regard?
Some of the things I read. So there's a book that we tried to give to most of our scholars before they went on their journeys abroad. And it was because someone had given me the book, and after I read it, I was like, okay, I'm about to do this. And it's called The Alchemist by Pick it up if you haven't read it, and that's to everybody who's on the webinar. So that book was absolutely amazing, because I think it's about a boy who goes on this journey to find his personal legend, and that's the journey that we wanted for all of our students. That was exactly why we were sending them on these programs. And so The Alchemist was very important, both symbolically for them and for me as I went on this journey. I also read a book by another Echoing Green fellow called One Day All Children by Wendy Kopp. As a TFA, as a Teach for America alumnus, I had a lot of respect for Wendy as a social entrepreneur and as an education leader. But One Day All Children was the place where it really chronicled all of the amazing, crazy, hard stuff that she did in building Teach for America, because she had this relentless dedication to knowing that this was right. And so I read that book probably every other week for the, for the first year, and found some good ideas. And then I've read, there's also there was an online mini MBA at managementhelp.org that helped me learn a lot about the ins and outs of running a nonprofit.
Oh, great. Can you say that again, the online mini MBA?
Yep, it was called managementhelp.org.
Great.
And
Great. And I'll just say real quickly that we have a bookshelf of books that have been written by a number of fellows in our community, in addition to One Day All Children. But it seems that maybe we might as well add The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, considering how many fellows seem to reference that
Really?
as one of the. Yeah, we've seen it very often in a lot of our applications and in some of the feedback that we get from fellows. So there must be something going on there with that text. So great. I see that we're coming close to the end, but want to be able to ask a couple of these additional kind of last-minute questions as well, and also give you a chance to give some kind of last-minute advice as well, Anthony, that you may have. I guess one final question that's come our way, or one of the second to last, I guess, final question that's come our way is, for many applicants, their initiatives are still in the idea phase. In your mind, how can they best demonstrate their potential to lead the organization and carry out its mission, considering kind of the nascency of where they are?
One of my professors here said to me something when I asked him a similar question a couple of months ago. He said, there is no way, he said, I'm convinced that the only way to demonstrate the capacity for leadership is in the act of leadership itself. Which means start now. I think I would say, entrepreneurship means literally to take into hand, right? Whether or not you have the resources to make the rest of it happen, that's what entrepreneurs do. You move forward. And that if you're really the kind of applicant that I think Echoing Green is interested in supporting, you're going to be able to convince them that you're going to do it. You're so dedicated to what this issue is, and so convinced of like how you're going to go about it and the impact of it, that you're going to do it with or without Echoing Green. So start now.
Excellent, great. Thank you for that, Anthony. Do you have any kind of last minute kind of pieces of advice that you'd like to share?
I would say for a lot of folks who may be considering, I've met a lot of people over the years who have considered applying for the fellowship, and then at some point, I don't know whether it's the number of applications that they looked at and sort of counseled themselves out of it, or they doubted whether or not what they were proposing was really that great. The one most deleterious thing I think that any of us could do is to counsel ourselves out of opportunity. And so I would just say, if you're on this webinar and you're thinking about applying, don't counsel yourself out of it. Finish the application, put it in, because who knows, lightning just may strike.
Fantastic. Anthony, thank you so much for taking your time on behalf of all of us here. Really appreciate you sharing these jewels of wisdom. Appreciate it very much, and we thank you. Also, I want to express a thanks again to Sean and Rashid for taking their time as well. I see that we're coming up a little bit short on time, but want to hand it over back to Erica before we end to give some additional last-minute information on applying. So with that, thank you again, Anthony, and I'll turn it over to Erica.
Thanks, DDA, and thanks again, Anthony and Rashid and Sean, for spending time with us this afternoon. For the applicants who are in the room, this is basically what you need to know. The application questions are available now. I suggest that you download them now, at least start thinking about how you're going to go about answering them, get people to read your application. If anything that all the fellows say for their best piece of advice when you're applying is get other people to read your application. And that just doesn't mean one person, 6 people. Get someone who's close to you, someone who doesn't know you very well. I think one of the points is that the readers will not know who you are, and so the point is that you need to get that across of who you are and why you're doing this, why you're passionate about it. So be clear, be concise, be compelling. That's kind of the main takeaways here. Frequently asked questions are online. We'll definitely add any questions that we found that have been common across the 4 webinars that we've done this week. Your application officially opens on Monday. That is the same application as the BMA fellowship application. People were wondering, is it different? It's actually the same Phase 1 application, and there will be an opt-in box to be considered for both. So you don't have to choose at this point. You just have to fill out the Echoing Green Phase 1 application, and if you're interested in being considered for the BMA fellowship, make sure you opt in to be considered for that. And any additional questions, you can email my colleague Rebecca at echoinggreen.org, or you can email me. I sent you that reminder email a couple days ago. Again, this webinar will be posted online as a YouTube video, most likely, so it could go viral. Again, thanks everyone for attending. Thank you, our panelists today, and good luck, everyone.